Hey everyone, and welcome. What if I told you the key to unlocking your best performance isn't about working harder, but about winning a hidden game happening inside your own mind? Ever feel like you're on a hamster wheel, putting in more effort than ever, but just feeling more burnt out, anxious, and unfulfilled? You are not alone. This is the great paradox of our time.
Now, what's really interesting is that this feeling isn't a sign you need more discipline. It's a sign you're trying to solve a deep internal problem with external tools. If you want to crack this code, do me a quick favor and smash that like and subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand what's going on, we need to see that we're all playing two games at once, whether we know it or not. On one hand, there's the outside game. This is everything the world sees, your achievements, your stats, your promotions. On the other, there's the inside game, how you manage your thoughts, your emotions, and your core identity. So the crucial point is this. Many of us are experts at the outside game, but our failure in the inside game is constantly sabotaging our success and leading directly to burnout. But why is the inside game so hard? It's because most of us were unknowingly stuck in a state of mental and neurological survival mode.
Survival mode is when your actions are driven by fear and the need to prove yourself, while thriving mode is when your actions are guided by your core values and a sense of purpose.
This brilliantly illustrates the trap. Performance in survival mode might look impressive on the outside, but it's fragile, exhausting, and unsustainable because it's running on the wrong fuel.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it shows the three core emotional systems controlling this. In survival mode, the threat system hijacks the drive system using fear as fuel, which always leads to a crash.
This brings us to the big question. How do you shut down this fear-driven machine and reprogram your internal operating system to one that thrives? The answer is an elegant and powerful framework. Let's move on and see how this builds a path out of survival mode. The solution is a three-part framework: be, do, and belong. It's about gaining clarity on your identity first, then your actions, and finally your environment. And the order here is everything. You cannot have sustainable high performance, the do, until you've first established a solid internal sense of self, the be. To really master be, we have to go deeper into the root of our fear. The fear of failure isn't about losing a project, it's a primal fear of being cast out of the tribe. This is why it hurts so much. Your brain literally processes the pain of social rejection and failure in the same way it processes a physical injury.
This leads to the most dangerous trap of all, tying our identity to our results.
Let's look at this comparison. There is a massive difference between I failed, which is an event, and I am a failure, which becomes a judgment on your entire identity. In survival mode, we unconsciously weld these two ideas together, creating an inescapable identity that makes every new challenge a life-or-death risk to our self-worth. The first step to winning the inside game is to intentionally create space, a gap, between who you are and what you do. And this brilliantly illustrates a practical tool to do just that, called the failure rewrite. It's a four-step process to shift your focus from shame to learning and reinforce your true values. This practice helps you shift from a prove mindset, where you're always trying to validate your worth, to an explore mindset, where every outcome is just data for growth.
So the crucial point is that real, durable confidence isn't about telling yourself you're the best. It's about building an identity that is so secure it isn't threatened by failure.
Don't go anywhere. The rest of the powerful insights are coming right up.
Okay, let's just dive right into this, because this is a question every single one of us faces. You know that feeling, right? That rising tide of anxiety, that sting of disappointment, or just that heavy blanket of sadness. What are you supposed to do with that? Well, our first instinct, the one we've all been taught, is almost always the wrong one. That's it right there. The number one mistake is trying to suppress our feelings, ignore them, or wrestle them into submission. We think if we can just push the anxiety down or argue with our sadness, it'll just go away. But this whole approach doesn't just fail, it actually makes things worse. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a little while, but it takes a ton of energy, and eventually, whoosh, it's going to pop right back up with even more force. And this brings us to a fundamental law of our minds, sometimes called the white bear problem. The idea is so simple, but so powerful.
If I tell you, okay, whatever you do for the next 10 seconds, do not think about a white bear. What's the very first thing that pops into your head? A big furry white bear, right? The same exact thing applies to our emotions. The more you tell yourself, don't be anxious, don't be sad, the more your brain just zooms in on that very feeling, making it even stronger.
So, to really get a handle on this, we have to understand this crucial distinction. First, you have primary pain. This is the raw, unfiltered emotion. It's that initial, unavoidable sting of a setback or the physiological rush of anxiety. Look, it's just part of being a human. But then comes secondary pain. This is the extra layer of suffering we heap on top of the first one. It's the self-judgment, the criticism, the story we tell ourselves about the feeling. It's that voice in your head that says, I shouldn't be feeling this, or I'm a failure for being anxious. This secondary pain is where our threat system goes into overdrive and creates the real lasting damage.
And this gets to the heart of it. This is the real target. The goal here isn't to become some robot who feels nothing. I mean, that's impossible, and who would want that anyway? The real goal is to stop that initial wave of primary pain from triggering a massive tsunami of secondary suffering. We want to be able to feel the initial emotion without letting our reaction to it completely drown us.
So how do we actually do that? How do we stop that tsunami? Well, the answer lies in shifting from a mindless reaction to a mindful response. And we can do that with a simple but honestly an incredibly powerful 4-step model.
Okay, so check out how this builds. First, you name the emotion. Then, you observe it with a bit of curiosity. Third, and yeah, this is the tough one, you accept it without trying to change it. And finally, you take an action that aligns with your values, not with what the emotion is screaming at you to do. This whole process creates this critical space between the feeling and your action.
This is the absolute essence of step 1. You see, just naming an emotion has this fascinating effect on the brain. When you shift from saying, I am anxious to I am feeling anxiety, you create distance. You're no longer tangled up with the emotion. You become the observer of it. And get this, neurologically, this simple act of labeling a feeling has been shown to decrease activity in the amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, and increase activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part that does the rational thinking. You are literally taking the emotion's power away just by naming. So after you've observed the feeling without judging it, we get to the really crucial third step, acceptance. And I'm going to be honest, this is usually the hardest part. Acceptance doesn't mean you like the feeling. It just means you stop fighting it. You just allow that primary pain to exist, to just be there. And when you do that, you're practicing self-compassion. You're telling yourself, hey, it's okay to feel this way. This act directly activates your brain's soothing system, which is the only thing that can calm down the threat system and stop that secondary pain from ever even getting started. Okay, so you've learned to sit with the storm. You can name it, observe it, accept it. That is a huge win. But what about when that storm of fear or anxiety is stopping you from doing something really important? What happens when you need to act, but you just feel completely frozen? Well, that's when we need to build our next essential skill, courage. All right, first things first, we have to completely demolish the old definition of courage. Most of us think courage means being fearless. You know, it's some heroic trait that a few lucky people are just born with. But that's a total myth, and it's a really disempowering one. Real courage has absolutely nothing to do with not feeling fear. This is the new, much more accurate definition. Courage is a skill. Seriously, think about it like learning to play the piano or ride a bike. At first, it's awkward, it's difficult, it's scary. You're going to make mistakes. But the more you practice, the stronger those pathways in your brain become, and the easier it gets. Courage is just the practice of acting on your values in the presence of fear. And because it's a skill, that means anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn it.
So if courage is a skill, then how do we practice it? How do we get our reps in? Well, there are 3 incredibly practical techniques you can start using today to build up that courage muscle. We're going to look at 3 amazing strategies. First, shrinking the task way down with the art of miniaturization. Second, changing how you define success by calibrating your inner expectations. And third, creating certainty by using designated times for the hard stuff.
Okay, let's start with miniaturization. One of the biggest reasons fear paralyzes us is that the task ahead just seems enormous. The thought, I have to write a whole book, is so huge that our threat system just screams danger and slams on the brakes. The trick is to shrink the task down to what's called the smallest viable step, an action so tiny it's almost laughable. It's so small that your threat system doesn't even see it as a risk. You're not writing a book, you're just opening your laptop for 5 minutes. This tiny little action breaks the cycle of paralysis and creates just a little bit of momentum, which is all you need to get going.
Next, we need to totally recalibrate how we define success. Our fear of failure is so often tied to this all-or-nothing definition that's based on the final outcome. The courageous shift is to redefine success as simply making the effort you committed to. Your goal isn't to get the promotion, your goal is to ask that difficult question in the meeting. Success is no longer the output, which is often out of your control, but the input, which is always in your control. When you do this, you separate your identity from the outcome, and suddenly, failure loses its sting. Every act of trying becomes a win.
And the third technique is all about creating structure. Our threat system absolutely hates uncertainty. That vague dread of, I need to have that difficult conversation sometime this week, can drain your mental energy for days. The solution? Schedule it. Give the hard thing a specific time and place. Friday at 10 a.m., I am making that call. By creating a routine and a structure, you get rid of all that exhausting mental work of deciding when to be courageous. You just show up and you execute the plan. Structure provides predictability, and that's exactly what calms the anxious brain.
So here's the crucial part. This is how all of this comes together to literally rewire your brain. Every single time you use one of these techniques to take a small step forward in the face of fear, your brain releases a tiny neurochemical reward. It's a little hit of dopamine that says, hey, we did that and we survived. That was good. This reward strengthens your brain's drive system, your motivation center, and at the exact same time it weakens the grip of the threat system. Over time, through repeated practice, what started as a really difficult conscious effort becomes this powerful, self-reinforcing habit. Courage stops being this huge choice and starts becoming your default response. Don't go anywhere, the rest of the powerful insights are coming right up. Okay, let's dive right in. What if I told you that feeling of constantly running on empty, that exhaustion you just can't shake, has almost nothing to do with how busy your schedule is? Today, we're going to completely reframe how you think about burnout, and trust me, it's a game changer.
You know that feeling, right? Where your battery just feels like it's perpetually stuck at 1%? It's become so common, it's practically a modern epidemic. But here's the thing, just taking a long weekend or even a vacation, well, that doesn't really fix the core issue, does it? Because the problem isn't just that you're tired.
We spend so much time blaming our calendars, right? Our jobs, our bosses, that to-do list that never seems to end. But what we're going to explore today suggests that all of those things, they're just symptoms. The real root cause is a fundamental breakdown in your internal operating system. So first things first, let's get the diagnosis right. Because you can't really win a fight until you know exactly what you're up against. And burnout, it isn't just being tired. Nope. It's a very specific and pretty serious condition that needs a very specific solution.
Now this is super important. Burnout isn't just one thing. It's a triad. It's this toxic cocktail of all three of these things happening at once. You've got that deep, bone-deep exhaustion that sleep just doesn't seem to touch. Then comes the cynicism and detachment, where you just feel disconnected from your work and even the people around you. And the final blow, that nagging feeling that nothing you do actually matters. When all three hit at the same time, that's a full-blown system crash.
So, think of your mind as running on three core emotional systems, kind of like a traffic light. You've got the red threat system for danger, fight or flight. You have the blue drive system, which is all about achieving goals and getting things done. And then there's the green soothing system, which is for rest, connection, and feeling safe. Now, in a state of burnout, your red threat system is stuck on full blast, constantly scanning for danger, while your green soothing system is just completely offline. You're all gas, no brakes, and you're running on nothing but fume.
Okay, so how do we start to fix this? Let's get into the first steps to recovery. We can't fix everything all at once. That's not realistic. But we can start by taking back the controls, even if they seem really, really small at first.
The very first strategic move is to get ruthless about focusing only on what's inside your sphere of influence. Just look at this chart. You control your effort. You control your reactions. You control your daily rhythm. You do not control company policy or what other people do or even the final outcome of your work. Letting go of that right column, that's not weakness, it's strategic wisdom. It saves your precious energy for the battles you can actually win.
Okay, this next tool is incredibly powerful for reconnecting with your sense of purpose. Let's say you missed a big deadline. Your immediate self-judgment might be, I'm so unreliable. The lesson could be, okay, I need to get better at managing my time. But the rewrite, the important part, is based on your core values. It might sound like, I am a committed person who is learning to better estimate project timelines. You see how that shifts everything? It's no longer about a flaw in your character.
And this is the whole point. You have to separate your actions from your identity.
You didn't fail. Your attempt didn't succeed this time. The entire story changes from I am a failure to I am a courageous person whose experiment didn't pan out. Can you feel the difference? One is a dead end. The other is a launchpad for what's next.
All right, now let's talk about the biggest lever you have for making a real change. And spoiler alert, it's not what you think. It's not about trying harder or having more discipline. It's about being smarter. It's about becoming an architect of your own world.
Seriously, stop trying to win the day with willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired and eventually just gives out. Environment design, on the other hand, is like changing the direction of a river. Instead of fighting the current every single day, you just build a system where the right choice becomes the easiest, most automatic paths to take.
And really, it boils down to these two simple skills of being an environmental architect. First, you reduce the friction for the good habits you want to build. You want to work out in the morning? Have your clothes and your shoes sitting right by your bed. Easy. Second, you increase the friction for the bad habits you want to break. Can't stop scrolling your phone? Put it in a drawer in another room. You want to make your lazy choice the right choice. Now think about your daily routine. A structured, intentional routine for how you start your day, when you take breaks, and how you end your workday. It's not restrictive. It's a protective wall. It saves you from the constant, low-grade drain of decision fatigue. It creates these clear boundaries that stop your work life from bleeding into your personal life, which, as we know, is a massive driver of burnout.
But here's the thing. Our environment isn't just our physical space, right? It's also the people in it. We're social creatures, and that sense of belonging. It's not just a nice to have. It is a biological necessity for our well-being and, frankly, for our ability to perform at our best.
So how do we actually create that environment of safety and belonging? Well, the research boils it all down to a learnable skill that has 3 core components.
These are the building blocks of what we call psychological safety. When a team or a family or any relationship has these 3 things, attention, kindness, and a sense of common humanity, it creates a space where it's safe to be vulnerable, to admit mistakes, to try and fail. And what does that do? It directly turns off that red threat system we talked about earlier and allows for real connection and growth.
So let's bring this all home. Let's put it all together. The end goal here isn't to achieve some perfect, burnout-proof state of being. That doesn't exist. The real goal is to master the process of returning home to your authentic self over and over and over again. Thriving really happens when these 3 parts of your life click into alignment. It's when what you do every day is a courageous expression of who you want to be, and it all happens within an environment of supportive relationships where you truly feel you belong. That alignment, that's the ultimate antidote to burnout.
We all have these 2 selves living inside us, don't we? There's the performance self, the one we put on for the world, driven by a fear of what people think. And then there's the authentic self, who we are when we feel safe and connected, driven by our own core values. The true inner game we're all playing is to shrink the distance between these 2, to make the mask you show the world more and more transparent until it's just you.
And this right here is maybe the most important point of all. You will fall out of alignment. Life is going to knock you off balance. That's a guarantee. The skill isn't to never fall. The skill is getting better and faster at recognizing you've strayed and starting that process of coming home to your authentic self. And really, at the end of the day, that's what we're playing for. It's not about the trophies or the promotions or the external stuff. It's about a life defined by that inner richness and alignment.
You've just equipped yourself with a brand new operating system, one for a more sustainable, meaningful, and effective life. This isn't just some interesting information. This is a powerful toolkit for winning the game inside.
Okay, let's make this real, right now. Don't just absorb it, let's apply it. I want you to drop a comment below and share just one tiny environmental change you are going to make this week to increase friction for a bad habit. Are you going to move your phone charger out of the bedroom? Delete that one distracting app? Seriously, reading your ideas inspires everybody else.
Awesome work today. Take care of yourself and remember to keep winning that inner game. See you next time.